Throwdown Nation, here we are. It is Tuesday night. We are live, and it is episode 22 of the Throwdown with Matt. And tonight, it is my pleasure to have with me from out of Utah, Mr. Trey Matthews. How you doing, Trey?
Good, Matt. How are you, man?
Man, I couldn't be much better. It's really been a pretty decent week so far. So you
Good, good.
can't ask for much more than that.
Heck yeah.
So we'll just go ahead and get into the matters at hand here, and we're going to start with what's always the first and most obvious question, and that is,
Cool.
Trey, how long have you been wrestling?
Okay, so I started training when I was 16 out here in Utah.
Okay,
Got a shoulder injury, had to finish out high school, stuff like that. I didn't have my first match till I was 20. So let's see, how am I now? 27, about 7 years, 8 years.
gotcha.
Training for 4 more than that, though, pretty consistently.
Gotcha. So who actually trained you?
So when I first started training, I was trained by a man named Jeff Orcutt out here in Utah.
Okay.
Jeff Orcutt and Adam Reyes started training me. And then the three of us moved over to UCW Zero's training school here in Utah.
Okay.
And then there I was trained by Derek Janetti and Martin Casaus and Brittany Quintana.
Gotcha. So you've had kind of a smorgasbord of trainers.
yeah, a little bit.
But that's a good thing, actually, because you're getting different perspectives, different approaches. It's so probably as many different influences as you can get, the better.
Yeah, I mean, everybody has a certain way that they like to train or teach certain things. And so it's cool being able to pick up little pieces from everybody and just kind of take that. Even with like other people that I just train with, I try to take little pieces of knowledge that everybody knows and just apply it to what I do.
Absolutely. In anything you do, being a sponge is a great thing. Just soak it all in.
Yeah, definitely.
So we're going to do the first of the speed round now.
Okay, cool.
Mick Foley.
Hardcore legend.
Yeah. Absolutely. So Trey, at what point have you been a lifelong fan, or was there a point in your life where you knew that you wanted to try to make a go of this? Was there a point when you kind of were like, I think I can do this?
Yeah, so lifelong fan. My mom tells me a story, my mom and dad, that when I was a baby, they're flipping through the channels and I was just crying and crying and crying, wouldn't stop crying. They flipped it on and it was Nitro. Nitro was on and I stopped crying. They changed the channel. I started crying again. They changed it one more time. WWF was on, Raw was on. So, and I stopped crying. And so from there, we watched Raw. And really, being a professional wrestler is the only thing I've ever wanted to do with my life. It's kind of what I've applied everything that I did towards, even when I was playing baseball and sports in high school. It was always with the thought of, okay, well, maybe if I make it big in baseball, that could help me transition over into making it big in wrestling. Wrestling's kind of always been the plan and what I've wanted to do with my life.
Gotcha. So, away from wrestling, what are some of your other hobbies and interests?
Baseball. I'm a big baseball guy. I love my St. Louis Cardinals. Most of my family is from Missouri, so kind of just was born into loving the Cardinals. Other than that, I like snowboarding. I don't do it as much as I used to anymore, though, because if I get hurt, it just takes away from time in the ring. And I just recovered from a big knee surgery. So snowboard, I just actually recently sold all my snowboarding stuff. So snowboarding's done for me. But besides that, man, I like going to concerts. I love rock music, heavy metal music, stuff like that. We just went and saw Falling in Reverse 2 days ago, and they were fantastic. Hanging out with my dog and my wife and my family. I'm a big family person. I love being around my parents and my sister and grandparents, just spending time with family as much as I possibly can.
Gotcha. I'm with you on that. Yeah, it's interesting. My wife is anything but a wrestling fan.
Mhm.
But the thing that's been interesting is since I've started doing these live streams, she has gained a new appreciation and at least understands now why I love it. You
Oh,
know,
that's really cool. Yeah.
it is. It is. And my son's not really a fan. I mean, he'll watch it, but he's not nearly as into it as I am. But probably about a month and a half ago, he and I drove to Augusta, Georgia, which is about 2 hours from here, for an indie show.
Oh, cool.
And on the way back, he turned to me and he goes, "I had a much better time than I thought I was going to." And
That's
little victories like that are just so darn cool.
Yeah, and that's so I also run my own promotion out here in Utah called Dive Pro Wrestling. And
Hmm.
that's the thing I get from most people, that it's their first time ever at a wrestling show, is wow, that was so much more fun, or I had so much more fun. It was so much more exciting than I ever thought it was going to be. And that's what I try to tell people with professional wrestling. If you've seen it on TV and you're like, on the fence about it, nothing beats being there live and in person. You can't help but get lost in it.
Right, right. I mean, he and I had gone to when AEW did an episode of Dynamite, near here. He and I went out for that. But going to an indie show and being that close to the ring and everything
Hmm.
was a whole different experience for him.
Oh yeah.
And it was, you know, I had seen a lot of indie stuff on the web, but that was also my first indie show in person,
Oh,
and
cool.
we both just had a blast.
That's
Um,
awesome.
yeah, yep. So speed round, um, Nick Nemeth.
Oh man, I like Nick Nemeth a lot. Really, really good wrestler. Probably one of the best sellers that I've ever seen.
Hmm. So, is wrestling anything approaching a full-time thing for you, or do you have a air quotes day job?
I had a day job until I had my knee surgery, and then that kind of squashed any day job I had, just because being late. I was laid up for almost a year,
Gotcha.
between physical therapy and just overall recovery time. Right now, I don't have a day job. I'm just wrestling. It's not as frequently as I'd like, but I've also been trying to take care of myself and making sure I don't get injured, because
Right.
I am getting ready to go train at Black and the Brave in Iowa with Seth Rollins.
Yeah.
So trying to make sure I keep my body healthy for that, because it's a big financial and just time commitment to that.
Right. Right. Plus, I mean, training with somebody at that level could open some doors too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it goes back to what we were talking about earlier about being a sponge and being able to take something from everybody that you've ever learned from. It's just, I mean, there's three head trainers there, so it's three more people I get to learn from, three more experiences, and everybody has something different to give, to bring to the table.
That is awesome. So, so your hometown, you said, is basically Ogden, Utah.
Yep, yeah, more or less.
Um, so, what would you say is your favorite thing about Ogden?
I like the history that's in Ogden a lot. I grew up just outside of Ogden in a town called Roy. Really love Roy. It's the reason I've stayed here the whole time. But Ogden just has such a deep, rich history within like the state of Utah, and there's usually something to do, some mischief to get into. Especially growing up here, you got to make your own fun. It's not a big town, so you got to figure out stuff to entertain yourself. And for me, growing up, it was building a ring. Me and my dad built a wrestling ring in my garage at a condo. So it was pretty wild growing up here, but it was really cool.
That is awesome. So, they say the best wrestling personas are yourself turned up to 11.
Hmm.
So, tell me about in ring Trey Matthews and kind of compare and contrast him with everyday you.
right now in ring Trey Matthews is just kind of an asshole.
Okay.
I'm a bad guy right now.
Yeah.
It's the first time I've been a bad guy in Utah in a really long time. Like I think I was a bad guy for about my first 6 months, and then I
Mm-hmm.
turned babyface.
Right.
And ever since then, I haven't been heel. But after I came back from this knee surgery, I turned heel, and that's been a lot of fun for me. Just experimenting and trying something new. But I'd
Gotcha.
say there's really not too much of a difference. I mean, I'm genuinely a nice guy in real life.
Right.
Um, but yeah, so I definitely turned that up, that way up, depending on
Gotcha.
who you ask, I guess. I mean, I'm sure there's people that don't like me very much, but it is what it is. Can't be liked by everybody in this world.
No,
But
that's
really,
for
man,
sure.
I just go out there and I try to be me. I try to be genuine, and I feel like, especially when I was doing my babyface stuff, that's what connects with people is when I'm just myself and I just go out there. And I think people can really tell, fans can really tell the wrestlers that love professional wrestling like I do.
Yeah.
And that's my biggest thing is I just absolutely love professional wrestling.
Absolutely. So, do you have a preference yourself between working heel or baby?
Um, Working heel is a lot easier.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot easier as far as like getting a reaction from the crowd. Working babyface, you have to work so much harder to get that reaction and build those genuine connections with fans and genuine connections with people. When I work at Hill, I just had to tell people to shut up or sit down or call their kid a brat or whatever comes to
Yeah.
my head, and I get booed, you know. But
Yeah.
babyface, I really got to make that connection. But I love working babyface. If I had to pick, I'd pick babyface. I
Got
love
you.
being the good guy. Be everybody likes being cheered, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. But a lot of the great ones say, though, when it comes down to it, love me or hate me, you won't forget me. So,
Exactly. Yeah, that's
and
exactly whether I'm a good guy or a bad guy. When you leave the show, you're going to be talking about me.
yep, yep. So something I'm gonna do real quick is I found on YouTube, I found a short highlight reel of some of your stuff, and I'm gonna share my screen and play that just so anybody
Cool.
that's watching this live that hasn't seen you can get a little taste.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay. And we're back. I
Man, it's
liked
funny that highlight package is from like before COVID even hit. I need to make an updated one.
I liked the little step up kick move that you did on the guy when he was in the corner. That was pretty
Oh, cool.
innovative.
Thank you.
Uh,
Yeah. I try to bring my twist on things I haven't seen before. Or if it is a move that I've seen before, I try to add something different to make it uniquely mine. Everything in wrestling is stolen. It's hard to be completely original nowadays. So
Right.
try to put some kind of little twist of uniqueness on it.
Absolutely. So, tell us about your very first match. What was it like? How did it go? What memories do you have of it? You're laughing.
Yeah, so my very first match isn't a prototypical first match by any means.
Okay.
Most people, when they get a first match, it's like a battle royal, or they get maybe a 6-man tag or something like that.
Right.
I was very lucky and fortunate that I was brought in as a part of a faction
Okay.
called No More Heroes, and
Okay.
just the timing of everything built to where they were feuding with another group of people. So my very first match was actually a 8-man War Games match.
Oh my.
Was my very first match was inside a steel cage.
Oh my
Uh,
goodness.
8-man War Game. So kind of got thrown into the fire very quickly.
I'm sure. Holy smokes.
But yeah,
Yeah.
it was fun. It was cool though because it was with the people that trained me. It was with Jeff Wardcutt and Adam Reyes and Martin Casals. Those were my 3 partners in the match.
Well, at least you were in good hands.
Oh
You
yeah,
know?
yep. And my opponents took great care of me that night, and it was a good, fun match. I'll never forget. That was the first time I've been in a match where obviously somebody bled. So
Yeah.
just that experience of feeling somebody else's blood on me was definitely a unique first time experience in a wrestling match
Oh, I'm sure. I'm
for my
sure.
very first match too. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, talk about, to some extent anyway, getting thrown to the wolves. That's
Yeah, no, that's exactly what it was too. It was four of the top stars in the company going up against us. So it was really cool. It was a really cool and experience that I'm very grateful that I got so early on in my wrestling journey.
speed round. John Hennigan.
Oh, that's Mundo, right? Morrison?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Really innovative. Um Super, I'd say underutilized in WWE too. What a star he
Yeah,
was in Lucha Underground. Um
absolutely.
but yeah, I'd say innovative and underutilized.
I agree. I don't think any place that he has been, with the exception possibly of Lucha Underground, has really given him the push that I think the guy has deserved for a long time. I mean,
Yeah, and now unfortunately he's at a point in his career where he's not at that top level anymore. So
right.
I thought TNA did a decent job with him while he was there, though. He was a
Yeah.
champion
Yeah.
there a few times, but he never got the rub that he needed in the E.
Right.
Sorry, I don't know how fast you want me to talk on these speed rounds. I can talk all day about wrestling.
Oh, I mean, whatever you want to say it.
Cool,
The show is yours. So,
cool, perfect,
I mean,
perfect.
I'm just along for the ride.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
So, we've heard about your first match. Now, tell us about your favorite match that you've been a part of, if you can narrow it down to one or two.
Yeah, my favorite matches. Well, I got to wrestle Brian Kendrick, so that was really really cool.
Oh, that's cool.
Me and him had a really good match here in Utah. But my all-time favorite match that I've been in, it just because I think it was the best. I had a 30-minute Iron Man match with my best friend. His name's Bronson. He's another wrestler here who's just phenomenal. But we had a 30-minute Iron Man match to close out our long feud. So that was really really cool. Just because we went a real 30 minutes. We didn't gimmick anything. We just went out
Right.
there and just wrestled each other for 30 straight minutes. And there wasn't a moment where the crowd was dead or felt dull or looked tired. So just
Right.
knowing that we went out there and truly entertained people at the end of a long show for a true 30 minutes was something really cool.
Gotcha. So it wasn't what you see a lot of the times, which is 20 minutes of wrestling and 10 minutes of rest holds.
No, yeah, it
Yeah.
was 30 minutes of action. That's actually where I first noticed I messed up. I think that's where I first messed up my knee was in that match.
Ah.
I had him sitting in the front row, and I did a crossbody from the top
Hmm.
onto him seated in the chair. And when I landed, I just felt my knee smash into the ground. I was like,
Mm.
"Oh, yep, something's
Yeah.
up there. And that was like 10 minutes into the match. So,
Uh,
but it was good.
but
It's everything. Yeah, that's probably my favorite match. That one, we did a dog collar together. That was really, really good as well. And then those have both been at Dive Wrestling. And my favorite out-of-state match I've ever had is me and Adam wrestled the Ballard brothers, who's just an indie legend tag team, and that was
mhm.
really really fun.
Awesome. Awesome. So, what have been some of the most interesting or unusual experiences that you've had in wrestling? And I know there's probably a bunch of them. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, everything weird always happens on the car rides.
oh
That's
yeah.
where everything weird or funky happens. All the inside jokes, everything like that. Oh man, I'm trying to think of some appropriate stories to tell because things get wild out there.
Oh, no doubt.
But I think just like playing practical jokes on each other all the time is my favorite or like most unique thing that we have going on. We went on a trip to Vegas with a wrestler, and he had an early flight the next day, and so he stayed in the hotel room. So we collected like, have you ever been to Las Vegas?
I have not. My wife has, but
Okay, so
I haven't.
in Las Vegas, getting a lady of the night or a call girl is kind of a normal thing there. It's at least legal, kind of.
Gotcha.
So they hand out these little cue cards, like pass along cards,
Right.
on the street. So if you want one, you can call them to your room. So me and another wrestler decided to collect as many of those cards as we possibly could. And then, so we had a stack that was probably about this fat, full of just those kind of cards. And we wrapped them up and put them in a little baggie and put a little metal marble in this guy's suitcase. So then when he went through TSA the next day and took it out, all the nudie cards fell out everywhere.
That the art of the rib.
Yeah, just it's a harmless practical joke, but it makes me laugh every time I think about it.
Oh, no doubt. That is well played, sir. That's really good. So what has been the strangest encounter you've had with a fan?
Oh, I've had a few really weird ones. I had a fan follow me into the bathroom to try to get a picture with me once, which it doesn't make sense because I'm obviously at the venue. I'm gonna come right back out and I'll give you your picture. But yeah,
Right.
literally followed me into the stall to try to get a picture. That was a female fan too, so that was quite the experience. But I'd say the weirdest one is I had just got done wrestling the Ballard brothers in California.
Okay.
It was a 2 out of 3 falls match, so I think we ended up going 35 minutes. It's in this little tiny building, middle of summer in the desert of California, so I'm dripping sweat. A fan asked me if she can give me a hug, and I'm like, if you want, lady, like I'm sweaty. She takes her hands and rubs them all the way down my back, double squeezes my butt, and then wipes her hands on her face. So that was
Wow.
definitely the weirdest fan experience I've had.
Yeah, that would be at the top of the list. That's wild, man.
Yeah, and then she's like, "Do you want to come back to my room?" And I'm like, "I feel like if I go back to your room, I'm gonna get murdered. So I think I'm gonna just hit the road and go home, man."
Wow.
It was
Mercy.
definitely creepy.
No doubt. No doubt. So, speed round. Mustafa Ali.
Oh, so talented. So talented. Another one that I feel like never really got his true shot in WWE.
Yeah.
Absolutely killing it on the indie zone and Impact Wrestling right now.
Oh yeah.
Somebody I'd love to definitely get in the ring with. So if there's any promoters out there who want to book that, I'm definitely available. Always. Any promoters who want to book me in general, I'm always available.
Gotcha. So let's see here. So, in terms of your in-ring work and your promos,
Hmm.
who or what would you say are some of your influences? It can be wrestlers, it can be pop culture,
Hmm.
anything. What has influenced you?
As far as in ring, Rob Van Dam, Jeff Hardy, Seth Rollins, Jushin Thunder Liger. I'm a big New Japan guy. Oh, Kenny Omega.
Yeah.
I'm a big Kenny Omega guy. That'd be as far as in-ring work. I like to try to wrestle like a hybrid style. So I like to mix in high flying and hard impact. That New Japan strong style. I love doing stuff like that. As far as my promos go, a lot of Mick Foley. I really like watching his promos. Oh man, it's pop culture wise. I kind of get a lot of my like wrestling style and stuff like that. Like Macklemore, Machine Gun Kelly has some interesting style. I take a lot of Seth Rollins influence in my work in general. The Young Bucks, stuff like that. Yeah, like I said, I just like taking little tiny things that I see and try to incorporate it into my own.
Gotcha.
Especially like promo style. I try to mix up my cadence or the way I talk in every promo, or try to use different anything to kind of make it stand out or be a little bit different.
Gotcha. So as far as the Seth Rollins influence, who's the bigger influence, Seth Rollins or Tyler Black?
Oh man, for me, Tyler Black. His Ring of Honor stuff is just incredible.
It is.
It's so good. Like, I don't think people that just watch WWE, I don't think they realize how good he actually is.
I know. Yeah.
And he is a phenomenal talent. It's the main reason I decided to go train at his schools. Out of all the reputable and amazing wrestling schools and academies there are out there, that's where I wanted to go. That's who I wanted to be trained by.
Gotcha. So do you have an all-time favorite match as a fan? Something that you may have watched it a million times, but it never gets old, and there's always something new every time you watch it.
Kenny Omega versus Will Ospreay from Wrestle Kingdom a few years ago. That one's really good. I've watched that one multiple times. The first match I ever remember watching was the Hardys versus Edge and Christian in that first ever tag team ladder match. So that's one that I've watched at least 1,000 times, and it's never ever gotten old. There's a random ECW match that I have on a DVD, a best of DVD, and it's Rey Mysterio Jr. versus Psychosis in a Mexican death match. And that match is just phenomenal. There's always something new and different to watch in that match. I know he's kind of persona non grata as far as we're not supposed to talk about him, but Chris Benoit versus Kurt Angle from Royal Rumble 2003. These are just like some of the matches I can think of off the top of my head that I just love watching.
Well, I've talked to a lot of my other guests. I'm a huge Chris Benoit fan. I mean, and I can separate the man's body of work from what he did. I can still watch Chris's matches and enjoy them and enjoy the memory of what he was as a wrestler.
Exactly.
I mean, as a person, terrible human being. But I mean, you can't argue with the guy's work in the ring. I mean,
no, you really can't. You can't argue with anything that man did in the ring. He was a phenomenal talent.
Yeah. His triple threat with Hunter and Shawn at WrestleMania 20 is one of my top 3 matches.
It's so good.
Yeah,
it's so good. Oh, no, the Kenny Omega Okada match at the one that went through the hour time limit was phenomenal. All their matches are so good. Anything Bryan Danielson is amazing.
Yeah, the back in 1989, the I Quit match between Ric Flair and Terry Funk. Have you seen that?
I think I've seen it once or twice, but not enough to remember a lot of it.
I'm sure it's on YouTube somewhere. You owe it to yourself to check it out again. It is a great piece of storytelling. I mean, just really a great match. So So you've mentioned a few names, but who would potentially be some other dream opponents? And this can be either present day or past for Trey Matthews.
Oh man, Jeff Hardy. I'd love to wrestle Jeff Hardy. Growing up as a kid, that was my guy. Was Jeff. So Jeff Hardy's definitely up there. Kenny Omega. I would love to get the opportunity to work Kenny.
Yeah.
Yeah, like if I had a time machine, Jushin Thunder Liger, I would love to wrestle Liger. Tanahashi, same thing. I would love to wrestle like a mid 2000s Tanahashi.
Yeah.
Obviously Seth Rollins.
Yeah.
I'm very excited with the prospect of training him and getting to work with him.
Oh yeah.
There's some names on the indies I'd really like to work with too. Like I'd really like to work with Jack Cartwheel and Tony Deppen. I'd love to get the chance at Joey Janela. I feel like me and him could do some really good stuff together. Effie, I'd love to wrestle Effie. Chris Jericho, if I could go back to like 2010, just a more prime Chris Jericho.
Yeah, not present day puffy rock star Chris, but Chris more in his prime.
Yeah, even if you go to like Judas Chris Jericho at the start of AEW, I'd love to have that.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, so, Kurt Angle, TNA Kurt Angle. I'd love to work TNA Kurt Angle or any WWE Kurt Angle. He's just phenomenal.
Yeah. Amazing worker. I mean, and could really do it all. I mean, he was a great in-ring technician, but he was amazing on the mic too. So
ECW Raven. I'd love to work ECW Raven.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're familiar with him. Gino Rivera. He's a phenomenal indie talent right now who I'd love to work. I've had him on a few of my shows. So I just need to, that's on me. I can book that right now. So I need to make that one happen. But I'd love to work Gino. Man, there's count. I could name talent all day I'd love to work with.
Yeah. Well, you've brought up on a few occasions tonight Kenny Omega, and man, I hope he can heal up well from the diverticulitis and end up having another good run, because he's one of my favorites too.
Me too, and I don't think people realize how beat up he's been.
Oh, I know.
Even through the whole AEW championship run, I remember hearing an interview with him. I think he said he was at like 65% the whole time. I don't think people realize how phenomenal of a talent Kenny Omega really is, especially a healthy Kenny Omega.
Right.
If you go back and watch that G1 that he won, all his matches were so phenomenal.
Yeah.
That's another thing I would love to do is a G1 or just a tournament like that. Just wrestling that many times and the pressure to put on good matches every single time is unreal.
Oh yeah. I've seen a couple of the G1s, and man, I just can't imagine how grueling of a process that is to take part in. But I mean, to win it or even to do well in it would be such an accomplishment. I mean, so.
And I believe Kenny's on a very short list of people that won the G1 as a foreigner and in his first try. That was the first G1 he was in.
Yep. So we can, really talking about Kenny and being banged up and everything is kind of a perfect segue into this question. And that is, what hurts right now besides your knee?
My knee's actually okay today. It's feeling pretty decent. My body actually feels pretty good today. I haven't wrestled for about a week. I took a purpose hiatus in my bookings just so I could spend some time with my family and my friends before I leave for Iowa for 3 months. So right now, my body actually feels pretty good. My back's always a little stiff, my neck's a little stiff, but besides that, my body feels really good. My arms are tired from my workout today, but besides that, my body actually feels like if I had to put a percentage on it, I'd say a good 95%.
Gotcha. Well, This next question, I like talking to people that are both in-ring talent as well as working on the promoting and booking side.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so, in general, what are your thoughts on the current state of the industry?
I think this is the best the professional wrestling industry has been for a very, very long time. At least since I'm 27, so at least since I can remember.
Yeah,
Um, Even when you did have WWE and WCW, it never seemed like both of them were good shows at the same time.
right.
A lot of the time, one of them was far superior than the other. Um, and you can't, like, ratings nowadays, it's harder to look at. Numbers aren't as good. But I think as far as like the overall feeling of professional wrestling, right now is the greatest it's been.
Yeah,
I think, I mean, WWE is thriving. AEW is doing
yeah,
great. Impact Wrestling's doing good. GCW's they were just here in Salt Lake and they sold out the venue they were in. They're doing great. What other ones am I thinking of? MLW's doing good stuff. There's just wrestling companies everywhere you go, and wrestling's so freaking hot right now. It's amazing. It's an amazing time to be a fan, to be a
yep,
performer, anything that you want. And just with the how big social media and YouTube and streaming has got, like, anything you want in wrestling is at your fingertips. If you just take the time to search for it, you can find it.
absolutely. And it's exciting. For the first time in a long time, it's cool to be a wrestling fan again. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah, like I remember growing up as a kid, like if I wore my wrestling shirts at school, I'd get made fun of a little bit or be like, "Oh, what is that crap? Wrestling? You really like wrestling?" And I didn't care because I loved wrestling, so I'd wear my wrestling stuff all the time.
right.
But now it's like you're seeing wrestling shirts out in public again. You're really like the first time I remember really seeing wrestling shirts start coming out in public again is when the Bullet Club got their stuff in Hot Topic. And now you're
Yeah,
seeing Bullet Club shirts, you're seeing Young Bucks shirts. And then it's crazy because it's an independent level and you're seeing all this stuff. And
yeah,
now that WWE and AEW have really blown up again, you're seeing wrestling shirts all over the place.
right, right. Well, I've got to tell you a funny story. A few years ago now, I was in our local grocery store, just grocery shopping, and there was a woman walking by with a Bullet Club shirt on, but it was a Bullet Club shirt I had never seen before. It was like a custom Bullet Club
Mm.
shirt, and so I just passing by, I stopped and complimented her on the shirt, and about then this guy comes around the corner, and I look up at the guy, and it's Tamatonga. I guess that must have been his wife or his girlfriend or something.
Mm.
I don't know, but yeah, Tamatonga comes walking around the corner, and I guess he heard me talking to her, and he just looks at me and he too sweets me.
That's
You
awesome.
know?
That's such a
So
cool story.
yeah, I mean,
And
just
man,
a
I'm so happy for him. He's doing so much cool stuff now.
yeah,
You want to talk about
yeah,
somebody that's really worked hard to deserve that freaking spot he's gotten.
yeah,
He plugged away in New Japan for so long.
yeah.
So it's awesome for him.
But it was really a random and weird thing because at the time he was still over in Japan. I don't know what he
Mm.
was doing in Georgia, in Metro Atlanta, shopping in a Kroger, but there he was.
Yeah, who
So
knows?
yeah,
That's
but
awesome.
yeah, yep. So Trey, do you enjoy participating in tag team wrestling? And uh, do you have a typical partner or somebody that you enjoy tagging with when you do?
Yeah, I love tag team wrestling. I think tag team wrestling's a really lost art. Um, I think it's just the option to have four bodies instead of two bodies in a match, and the stories you can tell, and the moves you can perform, the sequences, and everything like that. Absolutely love. As far as a normal partner, I normally team with Bronson.
Hmm.
Um, that's why we had our big old feud because we broke up as a team, and now that we're both bad guys, we're back together as a team, and doing good. But he's my normal go-to tag partner, especially here in Utah. The other one I team with a lot is a female named Paradise, and she is a phenomenal talent. She is very, very good, very talented. Um, but yeah, those are kind of my two go-to partners.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Um, so this is really kind of a good segue into the next speed round.
Mm,
Um, well, depending on where you know him from, you'll know him as two different things: Bronson Reed or Jonah.
hmm Oh man, I think he is a very talented big man.
Yeah,
Um, I really haven't thought much of him as Bronson Reed in WWE. I like what they're
yeah,
doing with him over the last few weeks.
yeah,
What he did on Raw last night was awesome.
yeah.
That car stunt was freaking great. Honestly, I don't think I really have that much of an opinion of him, good or bad. The
Gotcha.
G1 or when he worked Okada, that was a good match,
Yeah,
but it's kind of hard to have a bad match with Okada.
exactly.
So I honestly I'm not. He's not somebody I seek out to watch,
Right.
but it's a Baskin Robbins. It's different flavors of ice cream, and he's just not my flavor of ice cream as far as a
Gotcha.
wrestler that I like and that I really enjoy watching.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So, you're still a comparatively pretty young guy, but knowing everything you know now at this point in life, Trey, if you could give any advice to your younger self, what would it be?
Oh man, probably get out of Utah faster. I love my home state, and it's starting now to really become really good for wrestling. We got my company Dive, and then we have Devotion Championship Wrestling, who's a really good company out here. Manny Lemons just does a really good job with that. And then there's a couple lucha promotions out here that are good, and Darren runs STF. But I'd say overall, get out of Utah and um, go to a reputable school. Go train with somebody that has a name that's been where you want to be.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
Because I mean, now I'm 27 and I'm going to do that. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
you're gonna go eventually anyway. Martin Casaus is, oh man, I think 15 years into this business, and he went and trained at Nightmare Factory in Atlanta. Same with Manny Lemons. He went and trained at Nightmare Factory in Atlanta. Like, eventually, if you're really serious about wanting to make it in professional wrestling, go to a reputable school with a big name trainer.
Gotcha.
You're going to learn more. It's going to look good on your resume. That'd be my biggest advice: is just do that and take care of your body a little bit more. I'm
Yeah.
27. I shouldn't have had 2 surgeries and brain injuries and stuff like that. But
Well, it kind of comes with the territory.
yeah, no, it definitely does come with the territory. But yeah, I'd say definitely take care of yourself. I recently started doing like more yoga and stretching more and being a little more conscious about what I'm putting in my body.
Gotcha.
If I could just kick my dang soda habit, I'd be good to go. But that's my biggest vice is freaking the caffeine and the sugar, man.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So, uh, so how does your wife feel about all of this? Is she? I mean, obviously, she must be supportive of what you're doing.
Yeah.
Um, does she wrestle or?
No, my wife is not a wrestler. I actually did meet her at a wrestling show though. She was a fan in the crowd. So she's been a fan of wrestling. She got in her first match she remembers watching was Goldberg versus Lesnar at Survivor Series, where Goldberg just squashed him. So that was her
Yeah,
first experience with wrestling, and then she was kind of hooked after that. As far as watching WWE, but I really introduced her to like the indie scene and
right.
different things like that. And she doesn't wrestle at all. But recently she has started. She's became our ring announcer at the dive
Oh, that's
wrestling
cool.
shows. Yeah. So the one we had left, it just wasn't. He had to move back to Idaho, where he was actually. Sorry, let me rephrase that. He was coming in from Idaho every month to do ring announcing for us, and we just couldn't make it work financially anymore.
Gotcha.
Long drive, lots of money. So my wife stepped up and started doing ring announcing for us.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
You know, keep it in the family.
Yeah, it did, and that dive wrestling really is a family business. My wife does the ring announcing, my sister does tickets, my parents run concessions and merch. Like it's 100% a family affair.
That is neat.
Yeah, it's
You
super
know,
cool.
I love hearing stuff like that. That is awesome.
It's a very old school territory way to do things. Just having the
Yeah,
family help out with everything.
absolutely. So, do you have a favorite move? Something you just really enjoy doing? And on the flip side, is there a move that you would rather not or won't do?
My favorite move I like to do is I do a double spring Phoenix splash. So kind of like Christopher Daniels' best moonsault ever, but I do it
Yeah.
with a Phoenix splash variation. Um, I really like doing that move. It's a lot of fun. It always gets a big reaction from the crowd. Um, there's not a lot of moves I won't take. Um, I as long as I trust my opponent, I'm pretty good with whatever. I took a pile driver on top of a bar a couple weeks ago at a show, so I'm probably willing to take everything. I'll tell you what though, I do have a vendetta with the Russian leg sweep. I don't like the Russian leg sweep at all as a as a move.
Really?
No, to me in my head, it just doesn't make any sense as an offensive maneuver where you're hooking your arm around your opponent's head and then you're driving both your bodies back down into the mat, but your opponent's head's protected and your head's not protected.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
just, it's one of those moves that I just like, I don't know why, but every time I see it, it like irks me. It just bugs me. That's the one move that I'm like, I really would prefer not to do it.
Yeah.
Not because it
Yeah.
hurts or anything like that. Just in my brain, it kind of, for me, it breaks the illusion of what wrestling is.
Got you. Got you. You know, the one the one move that has always scared me to watch, um, because it just seems like there's just so many ways something could go wrong, is a vertebreaker.
Yeah, I've taken one vertebraker from a guy that I really trusted, and it's a scary move.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean,
It's a very scary move. That other one that looks scary right now is that Tiger driver that Osprey's doing.
oh yeah,
That one's gnarly. That's a gnarly bump.
yeah, yeah. I remember. Yeah, he did that. I think it was with Danielson, and Danielson's got neck issues anyway,
Yeah,
and he was apparently having like a stinger down both arms after that.
yeah,
So
he did it. He's done it with Danielson and Omega. Omega was the first one that I saw him do, and then
yeah,
he just did it with MJF at All In.
yeah. So something I've done in all of these that's just been kind of fun is I've let the current guest pose a question for the next guest.
Mm.
So last night, as I mentioned, I had JD Mason,
Hmm.
and so he posed this question, and it actually works out really well because you know you guys are both talent and promoters slash bookers.
Yeah.
And so the question he posed is, you know, if you were in the promoter slash booker position, how would you handle a big locker room disagreement between you and the talent over something that you had decided was going to be a certain way and the talent didn't like it? How would you handle that?
Um, it would all depend on how the situation played out. If the talent just didn't like it, but ultimately at the end of the day, they went out there and did it, then that is what it is. We'll have a conversation with the talent of like, hey, I understand that you didn't like that decision. I appreciate you going out there and doing business the right way. Um, if it's a situation where the talent blatantly goes out and does the opposite of what I said, then I'm gonna be a little frustrated with that talent. We're gonna sit down and have a big discussion if working for my show is what he really wants to be doing.
Right.
Because if he can't follow the simple directions that I make, especially at dive, I'm so laid back and relaxed with everything that if a talent can't listen to the simple direction that I give, it really really irks me. So we'll just sit down and have a conversation like adults, because there's no need for anything else besides a conversation like adults on why he
Exactly.
made that choice, and if he's going to keep acting like that, then he doesn't need to be here. If he doesn't want to be there, he doesn't need to be here.
Exactly. Exactly. So, since this is part of a series, do you have a question to pose for the next guest? And I can go ahead and tell you the next guest is tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Eastern. I've got an indie wrestler from South Carolina named, his ring name is No Quit Jake Parker, and he's a young guy, but he's off to a good start. Do you have something? It doesn't have to be something particular to him, but do you have a question you'd like to pose to the next person?
Yeah. Would you ever do a death match?
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah. Would you ever do a death match? And I'm talking like a full-on death match, like glass, stuff like that. Not like a WWE style hardcore match, a full
Right.
death match. That's one of the few match types that I haven't participated in that I'd be interested in doing at least one. Would be a death match, just because people I like made them so famous. Mick Foley and Terry Funk and Moxley, and I enjoy watching them. So I'd love to participate in at least one.
Yeah, Nick Gage. I mean,
Janelle, like some of the people I said that I like would love to wrestle. Janelle has done them. Effie's done them. I would love to work one.
I remember, I guess it was a couple of years ago now. I think, David Arquette did one. I think he was in. I think he was in there with Nick Gage. Actually,
he was in there with Nick Gage.
And I remember, I think Gage cut him pretty bad.
Like Arquette freaked out and moved sporadically, and Gage got his neck a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the territory of those matches. I mean, Nick Gage almost died in a death match. He almost took the term literally,
Yeah.
But yeah, I would love to do one on the right stage. And I've done, I think glass is about the only thing I haven't done. I've done barbed wire tables and cheese graters and random mouse trap boards and random wacky stuff like that. So
staple guns.
Yeah, I've done a staple gun. It's not as bad as you think.
Really?
No, getting them out's the worst.
Well, yeah.
Same with thumbtacks. Going in isn't bad because your adrenaline's pumping and everything's cool. But my biggest advice, if you're going to take a staple gun, pull it out in the match where you still have all your adrenaline pumping.
Yeah, I could see that. So we're pretty much toward the end of things now. So do you have any upcoming shows or anything at all that you would like to give some hype to?
No, I don't have any upcoming shows. Dive's taking a break while I'm away in Iowa for wrestling school. Our next one is December 14th, I believe. It'll be our 4-year anniversary show. So that'll be cool. I got some really cool stuff planned for that. Just, man, follow Utah Wrestling. If you're not, like, this is something we've been trying to build up here, and it's finally starting to get some kind of a little bit of recognition, at least. Just follow Utah Wrestling. There's YouTube pages. You can follow all our stuff at Dive Wrestling. We're completely up to date on our YouTube, so every match we've ever done's on there. Yeah, besides that, man, I'm just so excited to go to Iowa and
no doubt.
Train out there. Hopefully get some bookings while I'm out there, whether it be with any independent that wants to book me. I'm always available and easy to work with. So I'm super stoked for that, and I know my weekends are going to be open while I'm out there. So Chicago, St. Louis, anywhere that's around Davenport, Iowa, hit me up. I'll make the drive. I've never been opposed to driving places.
So what is the longest trip you have driven for a wrestling show?
Probably JD Mason's show in Washington.
Mm-hmm.
That one's far. That one's real far.
Gotcha. Well, thank you for your time, Trey. This has been awesome.
Man, thank you so much for having me. I really do always appreciate doing interviews and talking about professional wrestling with other people that just love wrestling. It's always a pleasure, It's cool to meet like-minded people who enjoy this. So
Oh yeah.
thank you for reaching out and inviting me. I
Oh,
really appreciate it.
absolutely. And I definitely want to. I'll be keeping an eye on what's going on with Dive, and anything I can do to help spread the word about you guys. Even though I'm in Georgia,
Yeah.
I'll gladly spread the word about what you guys have going out there. And feel free to send any of your talent my way, because I'd love to get some of your workers on one of these. So
Oh yeah, I definitely will. I'll reach out to some people and send them your way because I think just the more exposure we have as wrestling talent in general, whether it's little podcast interviews. I've done newspaper interviews about upcoming shows. Anything that we can get as independent wrestlers in general is phenomenal. And that's the one thing with WWE and AEW doing so well right now is it's in a way kind of crushing the indie scene a little bit because anytime one of us gets super hot, we just get scooped up.
right.
So, and it's phenomenal for wrestling that that's happening, and it's great for the fans. But we got to make that buzz as
Yeah.
independent wrestlers and as independent wrestling promotions, and that's why like I look so much up to what GCW is doing. They've been able to make such a name for themselves. Same with like House of Glory and Future Stars of
Hmm.
Wrestling in Vegas have been able to do so well for themselves for so long. So it's really a big inspiration myself as a promoter.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, for those of you that have been watching this live, thank you. For those of you that'll be seeing this on replays, thank you for that as well. If you like what we have going here, definitely spread the word. Follow me on my socials, all that good stuff. All of that will just help this to continue to grow. And this thing is really, like I've said to a lot of my guests recently, this thing is taking on a life of its own. And I'm just having a blast doing these. And I don't know where this is all going, but man, this is a cool ride, and I'm just enjoying being along for it. So anyway, I will be back tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Eastern Time with No Quit Jake Parker out of South Carolina. So I will see everybody then, and have a good night. Be safe, and we'll see